Alright, so this is Shindig number 2, I believe. And this time we're actually going to focus on translation. We have a few slides going on. If you are in the theme review channel, we'll post those shortly. This time we're actually going to focus on We'll start off with me. We have I'm Jose. I'm one of the key reviewers. I've been doing theme reviews for the last 4 or 5 years now. I work at Maintain with Web Dev Studios. Now we're going to go over to Cristiano. Tell us about yourself.
Hi. I'm Cristiano Zanca. I'm a team reviewer and meetup WordPress organizer, WordCamp, a lot of WordPress stuff. I'm very pleased to be here and to with the other guys to show a lot of WordPress stuff. Apply best practice in team reviewing. I'm very pleased.
Hi, I'm Afzal. I've been developing themes for about 3 years, involved with the community for probably about 4 to 5 years. Before that, I used to help out on the support forums every now and then. And yeah, I guess just want to help improve the way we go about reviewing and the community as a whole. So hopefully these hangouts will be helpful alongside the Shindigs.
Awesome. So let's get started. So in the slides, first thing we see obviously is the translation. My native language is actually Spanish, so this kind of helped out a little in understanding how translation works. From there, one of the requirements for the theme review is that you need to have the load text domain. You have to have the text domain header in your style.css file, and each one of your text strings needs to be translated as well as having that text domain. It can't just be an empty text domain. Cristiano, you got any advice on this for checking? Afzal, you guys have anything?
The text domain is something that maybe since 4.4 is not more a requirement, but it's better to use it because for backward compatibilities. So use it because you can be installed your theme in more WordPress environment all around the world. Obviously, keep that in mind that it's something that in the future will it's not a required thing.
Yeah, just remembering also that it must match the actual slug of the theme when it's put onto .org, and that you can have more than one if you have a bundled framework. But if you do have more than one, then it's not going to be compatible with the language packs. So, if you want to maximize compatibility with those, then consider changing the text domain on your bundled frameworks if you're using that to match the theme as well.
Very true. And then we also have our available functions. So with those, we have the double underscore, which always returns the string. And then we have underscore echo, which actually echoes out the string. We have underscore n, which is for singles and plurals, and then the number format internationalization. It's actually a pretty handy one, but it's not always used. Just something that's actually available for us to use. You guys know anything about these? You want to share some thoughts on how to use them?
So I really like using underscore e. It just makes the code so much tighter. You can avoid the use of echo at the start, and I've seen many cases when I'm reviewing themes where authors are using echo and then double underscore. So yeah, just being familiar with these three just makes your code a lot tidier. And Jose probably knows a little bit more about the number format one than I do. That was actually very new to me, so it might be new to a lot of you other guys as well. But yeah, just being aware there's 4. I always thought there was 3.
And I may add that this is one of the hundreds of functions that you can use instead of using echo or PHP command. And it's very important to understand all the WordPress environment where you are developing in, because using this you can write more flexible code. So be very careful. Don't write in PHP, but write in WordPress environment. This is different. So this is one of the hundreds of the dedicated function that you can find only in a WordPress environment.
And so we'll look at usage cases. So, like we said, double underscore just returns the string, and then for the number, that one's actually, for underscore n, that's for like plurals. And the example posted on there, obviously, we're returning the first one, which is for the single, so if it's 1, and then for the second, if it's 2. So in this example, it's actually written in Spanish, as you can see. The first one says 1 tomato, and then the other says 2 or many tomatoes. And then number format is actually kind of a cool one, because what it can do, depending on the location, it can put in either a period or a comma, because in certain parts of the country, they don't always use a comma as a thousand separator. And then for the second parameter, the number 2, if you have like a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll actually output it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.00. So it's kind of a neat one to have, especially for like prices.
Yeah, exactly. Where you got the 2 decimals at the end.
That's one I actually didn't realize until like a few months earlier, and I was like, ooh, that's actually a really good one. So it's not just new for you, it's new for me too, so.
If I had a cup, I'd raise it.
Right? And then we also have what's kind of a tough one for many is context. And context is always a hard one to do and to understand. And it's funny because this always comes to mind. When I was in high school, everyone knew that I knew Spanish. So they'd come up to me and like, hey, how do I say this? How do I say that? And without me wanting to tell them, oh, this is how you say it wrong, I was like asking them, so what are you trying to say exactly? It's a matter of either you're saying literally or figuratively. Because in language, it can vary. You can actually change the tone. Like, I'm sure, Cristiano, in your country, you guys probably say things very differently. Like, do you have examples of that?
Yeah, it's very important because there are some words that in English maybe are the same as a noun or as a verb, but in Italian is completely different. So you have to use one string for the noun and one for the verb. So translating could change all the code you are writing in. So context is very important because you can change the meaning, and changing the language, you maybe have to change some part of the code. So this part is important in the 2 aspects: the writing code and the understanding the language. So if you need help, you also can ask in Slack. International, we are from all over the world, so you can ask for it. And for the code, you can follow, obviously, the handbook that Kenshino is making beautiful with his guys and cooperators. And it's a very important part because it's something between a language and code.
So, you have anything on that one?
Well, also on that, the fact of localization. So just recognizing that in different territories within sort of the same country, different words might have a slightly different meaning. So it's not always about internationalizing to a different language, but also localizing sometimes to the same language but a different dialect.
No, that one's actually very true. Even in California, if you actually go down south, they'll look at you for saying such a word as y'all or hella. And that's actually one of my favorite ones, because if you're actually in California and you say hella, they kind of look at you like, you're weird. Like, what is hella? Northern California uses it like it's crazy. Southern California, they're just like, okay.
No, that's very true, especially with that example of y'all, because, I mean, that's, easy to understand even if you've never used that word. But to some people, that's, everyday English.
Yeah, and another example is, we actually talked about this, I think it was on the first time we actually met, was the word shindig. Some people didn't even know what it was. They're like, what is a shindig? Is it something that you dig and you use your shin? Right?
I was one of them. I must admit.
Yeah, it was you, Cristiano.
Yeah, I remember. I was just like, oh, it's like a party. It's a get together, you know. A lot of people in the U.S. obviously use that because they try to come up with different ways of saying something.
Yeah. Yeah, this I think that the context is about also the tone, like said before. So it's very important to pay attention on it because you can pass the limit and you can be also offensive. So take care of the right word and using the right code to write it.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
is
see,
increasingly.
even Milana, yeah. Even Milana says, I googled Shindig as well.
Okay.
So yeah, you're not alone. There's people that still don't know what that means.
And,
Also-
and it's not easy to find also, I must say.
Alright, and then let's actually look at a couple examples of that. So, as I was saying, like, Spanish is my first language. So, when I learned Spanish, one of the things that I learned were the differences and the tones, because you can actually use formal and informal, which to this day I still have like a hard time understanding at times because you never know what kind of tone everyone has. You know, like you could be talking to your parents and they could be super formal about everything. You could be talking to your friends and they could be informal or even formal or even mix the two.
Yeah.
For example, the numbers, the _n, like I was saying earlier, muñeca is Spanish for one of two things. It's for wrist, the human wrist, or like an actual plush doll. So you actually want to make sure that you're getting the right context. You're letting the person, the translator, know this is what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, also as WordPress gets bigger and bigger, and people are using, themes for a whole different array of sites, also understanding the context of what a particular word might mean on a particular site when it's being translated, especially if it's for a specific purpose. Say, for example, I don't know, purchasing plane tickets or something like that. It's important to make sure that the words mean what they're supposed to mean and not just translate to.
Exactly. If it's a theme for maybe about a photographer, or if it's a theme about a fish seller, I don't know. It's completely different. So you have to also keep in mind what the context and in which use will be used the theme you are developing or you are reviewing.
Exactly.
Very true. Very true. And then the other thing that we want to look at for themes is translation and escaping. So we have actually two things of doing when it comes to escaping. We have attributes, and then we also have like HTML itself. First example, of course, is attributes, and you always want to escape attributes. It doesn't matter whether you're doing something simple, you still want to escape it, and the reason is it's inside of the actual attribute tag. So we have escape attribute _, which returns the string, _e, which echoes the string, and of course the context one as well. For example, if we're inside of an image tag, the alt tag, or the alt attribute, you want to escape it. You know? Things like that. It's much like escaping a URL. I know at times I actually stumbled upon this one too. Like the first time I was learning about it, I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you should do that. So we all make mistakes. We're human, we learn from it. And that's the key takeaway, is that we learn from that mistake.
Yeah. I've been guilty myself of escaping outside of the translation, so doing the escape and then within the translation having the return for the translation, and this just again tidies up the code, makes it easy to understand, has consistency between different themes. So again, also I'd say it falls under one of those guidelines where it says you should use core functions if they're available, and this is one of those where you should be using this as opposed to escaping and wrapping inside the translation function.
Yeah, very true.
And like told the previous Shindig, is it also important to keep in mind that there are a lot of functions that are escaped themselves. Also, you don't need to escape everything, but if you use some WordPress function, they are already escaped in the. So like we used to say in the previous Shindig, keep attention also on this.
Yeah, follows on from that for sure. This particular point.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things you really do want to look at what core is doing. Like even like frameworks too. Like you want to make sure, you want to know what they're doing before you actually use it. Because I know I've seen like one or two themes in the previous like year or two that I've gone through. They return a string without obviously escaping anything, and then they echo it out. Well, a lot of the times you're not really sure what they're doing, so they're using just random code. A lot of it is copy paste, so they're just like, oh, it works, it's fine. So you really do need to know what you're doing with that code.
Yeah, it's good to paste, but if you know what you're pasting.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no code should be in a theme if you don't understand it, and all authors should just completely avoid that. I mean, like my personal example, all of my newer themes don't include any frameworks. They just use Customizer, because I know every single line of that code is written by me. I used to use Redux, and I'm migrating over because code is so complicated.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and what's funny too is literally a lot of it is just it's a wrapper for the customizer, so they're building upon what's already there.
Yeah.
And then let's look at the next one, which is escaping HTML functions. Obviously, just like attributes, instead of attr, it's HTML, and those will always work for you. And those are kind of tricky in that you don't always want to escape those, because when you do, you obviously end up getting with encoded stuff, and you're like, why is it broken? So you actually want to make sure that you're using the proper one and the right one. So in this example, obviously it's HTML underscore, and we're returning the string. This is actually something you don't want to break up. You don't want to break up the string saying echo you, then you want to concatenate with this and use that. It's much easier to just have the HTML that way and have it escape.
Yeah.
I mean, if you consider an instance, if someone were to do a translation around you and then can, and to this day they have absolutely, well, it's very difficult for them to know how the translation is going to appear on the front end.
Well, I'm gonna pause you for 1 second. We have on our chat, it's Milana saying, in Serbian translation we distinguish tone for when you address visitor and visitor's action. So that's actually kind of neat. I did not know that. Did you guys?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't know at all.
Huh.
So it's very important to write everybody's country habits, because in languages there are many differences.
Yeah,
so
that's actually really cool. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Milan.
Thank you.
So yeah, obviously translation is, especially in HTML like that, it's not easy. So you always want to escape, and the key thing is obviously escaping as late as possible.
Yeah.
And so, Jose, touching on your experience as sort of one of the admins, I think a lot of people are familiar with how to do basic translation and to escape translation within attributes. But escaping HTML, do you find that first of all people do that, and if they do they get it right or wrong a lot of the time?
It's half and half, actually. What's really funny is, like I said, it's not an easy thing. Like, even for me, I kind of struggle at times, because it's like I'm trying to figure out if it's the best way, or if it's the right way, or if it's just not there. A lot of the time it's like in between. Which is good, obviously, because it means they're actually making an attempt. They're trying to understand it and trying to see what they're doing. I know yesterday when Cristiano, you reached out to me and asked me about the theme, the translation was just, it was such a broken string. So what were they doing, you remember? It was like they were echoing the string, then concatenating something else, and then a URL, and then they were trying to concatenate something else. You remember?
Yeah. We had just yesterday there was in a team there was I'm reviewing is a child team, and is something that you can find as a reviewer. So don't be upset. It's usual to find a child team like that, because it's a child team that they've written for themselves, for their own need, and they think, but maybe we can put on the repository. I try if they review it, but is written in a way that it doesn't follow any of the requirement, because maybe they didn't read all the handbook. Maybe they don't even know that there is an handbook about team reviewing. So what I try to do is communicate with the author and tell him which are the best the best practice, where is the handbook they can follow to write a good theme. But the errors are very, there are a big number of errors, and the concatenating things also without any form of translation is something you can find very, very frequently. So be careful, because escaping and translating are two of the most important things in a team nowadays, more than in the past, because translation is something that we are improving, and with this inside every team you can have a team localized in your country. So it's very important to pay attention on it, because it make your theme available all over the world, or where you can find a translator that will be able to translate it. So write a good code, safe code, so escape and translatable is very important.
Agreed.
And of course, now we have our end for that. So if obviously anyone in the actual theme review channel, or anyone even on Twitter or anywhere, has questions, by all means, shoot them up. Let us know. In the meantime, I'm actually going to go ahead and switch over to... That's not the one. Our doc page. So obviously our doc page, this is kind of a summary of what we're going to be doing. From now on, we're going to always link either a slide or a Google Doc. And it's going to have some resources at the end. First one, of course, is John Billion, I believe it is, right?
Yeah.
It is, yep.
So his talk is about translation, and then we have Otto's 2 links about internationalization. We also have Mark Jakewith with translating WordPress plugins and themes. It's kind of a simple one, but it happens from time to time when people actually pass a variable to a translation. And then we have our codex page for localization, which has all the functions available as well. And then we also have our themes handbook, which is about 90 to like 98% complete. So that's actually a good resource and a great read if you actually get a chance. I've looked at it once or twice, and it's really well done, especially in the customizer sections. I know they're constantly trying to improve that. So if you actually want to help out, reach out to Ken Shino over on the Docs channel. He's always looking for people. So
yeah, he's doing a great job, and the handbook theme for theme reviewer is very well done, and there's a lot of interesting and important things to learn. And be part of the documentation team is also important, because I remember when I first started reviewing or learning about WordPress, I see a lot of space inside the source code with a blank space, and I thought, why is blank? now and later I understand that, because someone like me maybe can help to write what was empty. So if you find something that you think you can improve, don't be shy. Be part of it. Come with us and join the community.
Yeah, wherever someone feels they can add value, they should definitely be willing to contribute. I mean, even if you think it's something that you're not too good with, but you have an interest in contributing, get involved for sure.
Oh, and it's very true.
Yeah.
One of the things too is don't be shy. Like that's really what it comes down to, is don't be afraid of asking. Like if you seriously think it's a dumb question, odds are it's been asked. So just ask. Even in the Slack channels, there's a search feature. If you're not sure, you can search first. See if it's been asked before. That's one of the things that always makes me laugh at times, because it's like I'll see the same question an hour later. It's like, oh, we just asked that. Like, oh, that's cool. It's like deja vu.
Like in form support, we made the create your question at the bottom of the page, because first you may search. Maybe there is someone that solved your problem before. So yeah, but in doubt, if you're in doubt, ask for it. Of course, ask, because it's better to ask and make something good and working and safe, instead of making something very bad done.
Exactly. I mean, so many authors come into the channel and they say, oh, I'm not happy with the 5 issue and closure rule, for example. But, things like this, no one needs to be unhappy about this, because when you submit your theme, you obviously check it against the guidelines. If there are any guidelines you're not familiar with or comfortable with, just ask. So yeah, never submit a theme if it doesn't meet the guidelines. If you think it doesn't, just ask and you can get help. People will help you.
Exactly.
Yep, there's always somebody watching.
Exactly. And don't think that rules are written in the stone. Rules are made to make things better, to make things going.
Yep.
And rules are made by men and women, like us, like you and us, me and us. So don't be afraid. If you have an idea to change the workflow, write it on the Slack.
Yeah. Well, one of the things too is I know I've said this before. Like obviously, if you have an idea, obviously blog about it first. Get that thought process going, and then share it with other people. See what they say. It gains traction. You would be surprised as to how much traction something can get. For example, when the customizer was fairly new, obviously people were just kind of like, oh, whatever, it's there. I don't want to use it. I don't want to learn something new. And then came along something that I actually ran across, and it was merged into core, just kind of a temporary thing. It was the widget customizer. And it was written by Weston when they were first just kind of introducing the live widgets. I was like, ooh, that's actually a really cool idea, being able to see where my widget goes, what it's going to look like before I even save it. I blogged about it for a little bit, and next thing you know, I think it was like that version, it came out. And I was just
blog about
really cool.
It, because blogging, you can write more.
Yeah, and what's really funny is when they were actually writing it out, when they were first patching things up, I reached out to Weston and asked him hey, so I see you guys are doing this. Why aren't you using the dash icons? That when it was already merged in, he's like, I don't know why we're not doing that. So shortly after, they created a patch, they created a little ticket, and now they're using dash icons. So like I said, don't be afraid of reaching out. If you're not sure, ask. Especially in theme reviews, if you're not sure what this code is doing, ask the theme author, hey, what is this doing? Why are you doing this? It seriously helps you out immensely, especially with code, because you're like, oh, so you're taking this variable, you're passing it to this, and then you're creating that. It helps you understand. It helped me a lot, especially for frameworks. That was one of the things that when I first started, I'd see a theme, it's like, oh, it's got 300 files? No, I'll just get the 2 theme file instead, But no, I took it upon myself, and I said, I actually want to learn something, so I assigned myself one of the themes that had a built-in framework, and I was like, okay, I will get through this. I will get through this. 2 weeks later, I understood what they were doing, and it was just a wrapper for one function.
Exactly.
So
it's important because web performance are very important. Web performance are what make you first on Google. So for SEO reason and or for visibility reason, if you use a premium theme, you have to choose the best premium theme for you, because maybe it suits your needs. So it's not bad, but if you need speed or performance or a specific function or behave, you maybe write from the scratch or pay someone to do it. And coming back to the previous issue, it's very important to write it on Slack. If you have something to ask, write on Slack, and also open a ticket. If you don't know how to open a ticket on Track, ask for it in Slack. And you also with blogging, you can open a ticket in the Track system, and it's very important because a lot of things are coming from the Track system and in the meta channel. So visit Slack and ask how you can open a ticket if you find something you can improve.
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, WordPress is still in its infancy. I mean, how much, for example, just theme review has changed in the past 2 years. We went from having, huge options panels. Now everyone's moving over to the customizer. Now we're beginning to have much more focus around code quality and things like that. So, there's still a long way to go. I'm sure in 10 years' time, WordPress will be very different to what it is now in terms of our guidelines.
Yeah.
Very true. All right, so I think we've actually reached the point of where now we're just meh. But yeah. No, so like I was saying, obviously, if anyone does have questions, don't hesitate. Cristiano, Afsal, and I, we organize this Shindig. We help organize this Shindig the first weekend of the month. Our next one, we're actually going to focus on enqueuing scripts and styles. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If obviously you have questions about it, reach out to us.
Yeah, exactly. Also, including files is one of the other things that is done in a PHP way. So the very important thing is that you have to understand that this is not your custom PHP program, but is a WordPress environment. So if you use something like a require or a PHP code, PHP syntax without understanding how files are included in WordPress, maybe in your local testing environment they could work, but using that in the WordPress environment maybe doesn't work. And this is not because your PHP code is bad, but because WordPress is not only PHP, but because it's a object programmed PHP, so you may call function already existing in the core, and so you can avoid using a lot of memory. So the difference between a well-done code and a bad code is using less memory, and the page you will load is more quick, and so you maybe be the first in Google, but if you write a good code. So be careful and read the well-done documentation in the handbook, also not only in reviewers, but also in every aspect of WordPress.
Yeah, with regards to that on-queuing, when it comes to reviews, if you don't on-queue properly, you can make 2-3 separate mistakes, which can add up quickly to that 5-issue limit and can get your theme closed and sent to the back of the queue. So if you've got any questions about this, reach out to Cristiano, Jose, or myself, and we'll make sure to cover those specific points in the next hangout.
Yeah, and one of the things too is JavaScript, obviously, because it's going to be slightly more intensive now. So it's actually a good thing to know, even if you know just the basics of JavaScript and how it works. It's going to help you a lot in reading that code, and obviously knowing who to reach out to can help you out even more. Like I've been diving into JavaScript for the last 3 years now, so I obviously have some understanding of it. And I know there's people out there that write their own libraries when it comes to JavaScript. So, like I said, don't hesitate to ask.
You must remember that in WordPress there are a lot of JavaScript library already in WordPress. So you don't have to use your custom jQuery or other of one of the main framework used in developing JavaScript. So remember that. Don't replicate code or replicate library, because you will use a lot of memory without a reason. So
awesome. So final statements. Anything you guys want to say before we go?
Thank you to whoever turned up. Hopefully it was helpful. I mean, translation isn't a complicated area to master, but getting it right will really help your end user. So I don't think it should be underestimated when to use the various functions and tidy up your code. Remember, tidy your code is going to make the reviewer review your code faster, basically. So yeah, it can help the whole process and inevitably with the queue.
Very true, very true. Cristiano?
Yeah, it's very important to show this best practice. I'm very happy to help with that. So join us in the Slack channel, ask for it. And if you have some issue we want to talk about for the next Shindig, write us on the Slack channel or blog it or make a shout. we can listen you.
Yeah, ping us. Don't be afraid.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. And for me, the only thing I really have to say is don't be afraid of making mistakes. We've all made them. We learn from them. That's how we've progressed. I've done a lot of mistakes in the last 4 years of reviewing, and that's the reason I am one of the key reviewers. I learned from those mistakes.
Yeah, and we are still making that. But
exactly.
we are learning from that. This
Yes.
is important. And don't be afraid to read in the log file, because the log file are your friend. And if there is an error, it's not the problem. If you see a message in your browser, you have to read the error message, because you can understand how to solve the problem. Because I think that it's something strange, but when people read an error, say, oh my gosh, it's broken. No, it's not broken. If something is written on the browser, it can make you find the solution.
Yep.
So if there is nothing,
notice.
maybe it's worse. But yeah, you can do the log file in WordPress, because problems are what we work for. Solve problem is our job. So if there would be no problems, maybe we do something else, not solving problems and make program works better.
Awesome. Well, with that, we will see you guys next month and keep reviewing.
See you then. Bye.